thank you, and welcome to the On the House podcast. I'm your host, Lando Petrie. So glad to have you here with me on our debut episode of this new real estate podcast. So, On the House podcast, it's going to be a progressive, interesting podcast where we're going to interview industry experts. We're going to get tips, we're going to get tricks, other ideas, talk strategy about navigating the ever-changing world of real estate. Right? This is really going to be for our real estate partners, aspiring young lending officers, experienced lending officers. We're going to talk programs, products, and everything and anything we know to help you guys gain more market share and win more deals. So it's going to be really, really exciting. So a little bit about myself, like I said, my name is Lando Petrie. I have been a licensed loan officer in the industry for 16 years. During those 16 years, I spent about a decade traveling the country, training thousands of young loan officers, doing, conference calls and things for realtors to help them understand how to become a loan officer, how to take the next step, or what programs and products are there available to help a real estate agent better market their house. So we're going to use mine as well as all of the experts, other expertise to help you guys go through and understand exactly what's available for you to help realize what's happening in the market and what products, programs, tips, and tricks we can use to get you to that next level. So it's going to be really exciting. I'm glad to have you here with me. Another little thing you should know about me, I love minor league baseball. So you'll see a new hat every podcast. Today, we're going to have the Charleston River Dogs. This is actually the Holy City, as Charleston is also known as. So it's their alternate cap that they wear sometimes. So rocking this one is one of my favorites. So today we have a really awesome topic that I'm excited to go over with you guys, and that's the art of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a massive sales strategy that you can use to your advantage to help you communicate with a lot of individuals. I mean, that's the basis of what it is. Emotional intelligence really is the ability to communicate equally with a diverse group of individuals. So it's actually one of the things Jamie Dimon says it's the number one most important trait he looks for in hiring an executive for him at any of his companies or anything he's overseen. So, if someone like that's putting an emphasis on it, I think it's something we can really use to help benefit ourselves. So, and I think we've got to understand why, right? Communication, we all think we can communicate well. Well, at the end of the day, business and romance are two different things, right? In romance, opposites attract. In business, opposites do not attract, right? Microsoft and Apple are not holding hands walking down the aisle. Why? They've got different ideas, different philosophies, different mission statements, different points of view and communication styles, right? They're opposites. They don't align. Well, one of the key things to being a successful salesperson is being able to make a connection with individuals who at a root level think and digest things differently than you do, right? We all have an innate personality style inside of us that allows us to understand that before we even think about the responses that come out of our mouth, it's going to affect our perception, right? The way we perceive things, the way we react, the way we think before we even start to communicate has an effect on the perception of a situation. Well, the same thing happens for our clients, right? So we've got to understand how they perceive a situation to then be able to factor that into what the reality is, right? My perception is my reality. But if my perception can be changed, the reality and the outcome then is different than where I initially started. So let's talk about step one, the very first step. And this is one of the most important things that you can remember in the entire home buying process, whether you're a real estate agent or a loan officer. And that is your client's emotions are real. Buying a house is an emotional situation, right? I always tell people there are two differences. A house is an object. Home is a feeling. Home's where I leave after work to relax. Home's where I raise my family. I hang pictures on my wall. It's the hard work of everything I've done to give me my little space in this world, right? It's the largest asset I've obtained. And it's, like I said, it's my home. That's a feeling. I feel a certain way when I get to go home, right? No one ever says I get to go house. I always get to go home. So you have to understand during the process, there's emotions, right? People might be scared. They're going to be nervous. They might be stressful, right? Anxious. All of these things come into play. Anyone who's ever bought a house understands that. I've bought several houses. I can tell you I was just as anxious on the last one as I was on the first one, right? It happens. But acknowledging those feelings are real and understanding them is already going to, one, help you make a connection. So when I say feelings, what do I necessarily mean? Okay, they're nervous. Let them be nervous. No, at the end of the day, understand the why. What's the emotional factor behind the reason why they're buying the house? That's going to allow you to make the connection. All right. Someone who has, they're not buying a house because they want the extra space. Oh, I want a home. No, we're buying a house because we have our third child on the way and we need more space. That's the reason. That's the feeling, right? Hey, my kid's getting older. I wanted to get into a better school district. That's the driving force. It's your family, it's your child behind it. Hey, we retired. We need to downsize. We're on a fixed income that we're going to have to make sure lasts the entire time that we plan to be here while allowing us to have fun. Those are the emotions behind it. That's the why, right? People respond to why, not necessarily to what. So you've got to understand what's their why. Once you understand their why, you build off it. You build rapport, you support it, you protect it, you nurture it. You allow them to let them know that you understand the driving force and that's important to you. And that's going to help you make that initial connection, right? Asking questions, probing questions to find out the emotional response as to why they want to buy this house is going to allow you to celebrate those feelings. And that's going to alleviate some of the differences in the way you may communicate right off the bat. So always understand these things, right? Ask questions to find the root as to what they're looking to do. What has you looking to buy the house? How many kids do you have? School districts you're interested in, right? It's not just purchase price and down payment. That's the least important idea behind it. It's figuring out the driving force behind it and supporting that. It's going to build a sense of comfort. It's going to build a sense of care. At the end of the day, this is the largest transaction someone's typically doing at any point in time in their life. And more than anything, they want to find someone who makes them feel comfortable, supported, and protected. So understanding that connection is going to be step one. Now, the next step is equally important, and step two, and that really starts with understanding who we are, right? I've got to know who I am before I can understand who you need me to be. And what do I mean by that? Like, hey, I know what I am. I'm a nice person. No, I don't mean any of that. I mean, you've got to figure out how you react to certain situations instantly. Okay. Not when you think about it, you digest it, you look at it, you analyze it. No. What are your reactions to certain situations? How would you answer these questions quickly? Right. And one of the best ways I can encourage you to do this is to take a personality test, take an emotional intelligence test. They're going to be timed. You have X amount of minutes to answer all these questions, and you're going to move quick without the ability to departmentalize these things and really think about it. That's going to start to show you how your initial reactions are to these situations. Well, why is this important? Those initial reactions are how you communicate. It's how you perceive a situation, which affects your reality, right? You've got to understand where you lie on this spectrum. There's always a crosshair. Where are you? What sides do you lead dominant to you? Figuring out who you are and how you react is step one to understanding how do I change, right? I don't need clients to change. I need all the clients and real estate partners that I can have. I want to gain my book of business as big as I can get it. Well, that doesn't start with me needing them to be who I want. No, I have to be who they want. And that starts by me understanding who I am as an individual and how I can morph to communicate in a way that they like, they digest. People buy from people they like. People like people who think, talk, and understand things the same way, right? Like I said, romance is different. But if you look at all your friends, most of your friends have a lot of the same interests as you. You probably find the same things funny. You talk the same thing. You like the same thing. You make the same jokes. You guys are in sync with what your interests are, right? That's the way it works because you communicate in a manner that makes you guys each feel comfortable, which makes the time enjoyable, right? So you've got to figure out, how do I do this with people who are my opposite, who work in a different way? So you've got to start off and figure out who you are. So take this test, look at the questions, and graph yourself. Now, step three, understanding and identifying everyone else. Okay. So typically, I'm going to tell you that I believe there are 4 unique styles of personalities. And I give them names that match up a little bit easier to understand in the mortgage industry. So I'm going to call them feelers, thinkers, entertainers, and controllers. So those 4 styles all have completely different personalities. So let's start with our feelers first. Your feeler is going to be someone who's hesitant. They need emotional reinsurance. They're going to want to talk to their spouse a couple times. They may call their cousin who used to be a loan officer back in the day or a real estate agent in the 80s and ask their opinions and get their advice. They're going to take longer to decide. They're going to look at small things with a bigger level of concern. They're going to need someone who can speak a little slower, who takes a little bit more time to explain the finite details of everything to make them feel comfortable, who calls and follows up, who asks about what they did over the weekend, not just how the house hunting. They're going to take those small little things to feel that emotional connection And that's going to go a lot farther. They're going to be someone that you have to follow up with a little bit more and take a little bit more time, right? I always laugh. I always say my friends are my friends. My grandma's a feeler. I don't talk to my grandma the same way I talk to my friends because they're two completely different personalities, right? My grandma wants me to ask about everything, wants to talk to her. There's a different communication skill. We get to the same point. We have the same conversation. We can cover the same topics, but we do it in a little bit different manner. So those are one thing you have to understand. Next, you have your thinkers. Thinkers are analytical, right? They're going to go over the numbers. Everything has to make mathematical sense. They're going to break it down to the penny, understand where everything's going, talk about the long-term payments, savings, all of those things. Where does this go? Why is this how much? How much is that? What's the break even? All of those things. Well, when you're speaking to them, they're going to care a little bit less about than the feeler about some of the finite details as to what this term means, what those things means. What are the numbers? Where's my down payment? How does this go? So when you're speaking to them, their type of follow-up is anytime something changes, you're going to have to break it down, go over the numbers, talk about the differences. They're going to be someone who probably calls you back a couple of times to talk about the different options that they had from a numerical standpoint to make them feel comfortable in the decision they made. You'll go over the numbers with them. They'll call you back the next day to go over them again, just to confirm that they're correct in what they thought. They're going to think that way. So communicating with them, that's got to be your key point, is always making sure they understand how things add up and where their dollars are being spent to get them the deal that best fits their budget. So that's going to be their focus. Next, we have entertainers. Now, entertainers are the funnest people to talk to, right? They're outgoing, they'll laugh, they'll tell you everything. I mean, hell, they're going to give you more information than you asked for. An entertainer is the person you call to have a 10-minute conversation, and 25 minutes later, you're still on the phone and you're hearing their life story. They're going to look at what are they getting in the end. They're going to be a little bit more big picture than what the actual details need for them to get to the end. They're focusing on what they get, right? They're the kind of people like myself who are so excited for Christmas morning because we get to open some presents, right? That's going to be who they are. They're going to focus on what they get, what they have, how excited they are about it, and not as concerned with everything that goes into what's needed to get there. They're going to listen, they'll respond to you, but they're going to constantly be focused on the big picture at the end and how exciting it is to have this new object. But they're going to be very easy to speak to because they're going to be very outgoing and very receptive to conversation. And last, you have controllers. Controllers are exactly as they sound. They are going to tell you what they want, how they want it, and when they want it done by, and you need to be able to deliver. Controllers are going to be someone who values time and efficiency more than they value money. They are willing to pay someone to get the job done correctly and the way they want it more than shop around for the cheapest option available to them. Okay. So when you understand these four people, I always ask this question to the individuals: which one of these guys do you think is the easiest to sell? And I can tell you right now, 97% of the class is going to say entertainers first. Oh, they're the easiest. They talk, they're excited, they're all of those things. Yeah, that's great. They're also going to talk to 15 other people because they don't have a problem shopping around. They like the conversation. You got feelers. In the end, if you make them feel comfortable, they will stick with you, but they're going to take the longest time. And then you've got your thinkers. Thinkers are more likely to look around at the numbers of everyone else than anyone else out there because they're analytical. The truth of the matter is the easiest person is the one that most people hardly ever say, and that's controllers. Because controllers care about one thing: their comfort and your ability to deliver what they want the way they want it done. Controllers are also the most likely to come back to you on a routine basis because they have proof that you have delivered on what they wanted the way they wanted it. They're not as worried about the cheapest deal out there. They just need someone who gets to the point, tells them what it is, and delivers on what they say, and they will stay loyal. Now that we understand those four types of people that we're dealing with, we've got to understand what becomes the most important thing that we have to do. So step 3, right? Step 3 is understanding where am I and how do I get to where they need me to be? Okay. So I'll take myself. On my personality test, I'm 50% entertainer, 50% controller. On the grand scheme of things is where you would typically see salespeople. I'm super heavy sales. Now, personality wise, when you meet me, I am an entertainer. I'm outgoing. I like to speak. I like to have fun. I'm going to be comfortable in a public setting up in front of people. I have no problem engaging with strangers. That's my personality. But in my mind, when it comes to my business, how I handle my business, both for what I do for a living, as well as what I would have done on my own personal finances, I am a controller. I want it done correctly, and I want it done timely and right the first time. And I will pay you handsomely to do so. I'm not looking to find the cheapest person to come in and get the work done for me. I'm looking to find the individual who will do the job correct, will do it in my time frame, and will get in and get out. And I will stick with you, and I will continue to come back until you lose my trust. I want someone who's organized and put together and gets this done the way that I want it done. I hammer those thoughts when it comes to the way that I think about business or my own personal endeavors, right? So I lie heavy on those things. So it's important to understand that, because once again, not everybody is going to feel the same way about a transaction that I feel. Not everyone's going to communicate the same way that I communicate on a transaction. And that's okay. At the end of the day, they're the customer. I need them. There are other people who do my job. You can find mortgages elsewhere, and they will find someone they make a connection with, but I need them. They're key, right? I have a service that they need, but I need them to want the service from me. So I need to understand how I morph to be who they need me to be from a communication standpoint. Now, why is this important? Okay. You got your feelers. Well, their polar opposites are the entertainers. They don't get together. Thinkers, controllers, they don't line up. They don't jive with each other when it comes to communication. If I talk to a feeler like an entertainer, I'm going to be too fast, too quick, and way too excited for anything they want, right? That would be the difference of hearing someone from New York talk to, someone from Louisiana talk. It's a completely different dialect in the way they communicate, right? Both are correct, but it's not going to line up exactly. So I have to understand, hey, the entertainer in me, as soon as I identify that someone is a feeler, by feeling out the questions, listening to them, that's the key right there. You got two of these, one of these. Use these twice as much. Listen, understand, hear the inflection, hear what they're saying, hear their tone. So I have to really focus as soon as I identify this as, hey, match their tone. I got to slow down. I got to understand, I hear the questions they're asking, and I reiterate the question so they understand I hear it. And then I speak to them in a manner that makes them feel comfortable. Continue to ask them if they have any questions, right? Let them think about it, digest it, understand their feelings, and it's okay. I'm going to acknowledge them and then talk about them and ask additional questions to make sure that they feel comfortable. But that's the first thing. I'm going to match their pace, match their tone, and start to listen to the issues and the doubts, so to speak, they may be having in what they're trying to accomplish. And I'm going to build those things up to alleviate those. Okay. Now, next thing we have our thinkers, right? Thinkers and controllers are polar opposite. As someone who's a controller, I have to understand the very first thing when I'm dealing with the thinker is I have to go over all the numbers that I may not necessarily always worry about as a person myself, because I'm interested in you getting it done in the time frame I want at the overall price that I'm interested in. I don't need a breakdown of all of it. This is what I'm comfortable with. That's not the way that they're going to operate. So I've got to make sure that I go through things. I ask line items. I show them the options. I'm going to probably do a more robust presentation for an individual with them, listing out 3 different options, showing them the overall savings, giving them a recuperation period, an overall investment of what they could save during these different options, and break everything out. I'm going to provide it to them, talk to them about these options, and then I'm going to let them take them and digest them themselves and call them with any questions they have on the options. So at the end of the day, they feel empowered that they used their analytics to make the best decision they felt comfortable for their family. Now, if there's other options and other things they want to talk about, we'll address the questions, but I'm going to present it in a little different way. Unlike the feeler, where I'm going to explain a lot of things, talk, and we're going to have to communicate a little bit more through this. With the thinker, I'm going to focus on presenting them with options and showing the breakdown of all of these things, putting it in something that they can look at, do the math, see, and then I'll go over it with them when they have a copy and let them make the decision that's important to them, right? These types of things are important because that's going to be a communication skill that's going to resonate with them. It's going to be how they operate, how they think, and how they feel confident in their decision. So all of these things are understanding, hey, I'm a little different. I've got to do these things to communicate with my clients to help them feel comfortable in knowing I'm the person to best support their family needs in this real estate endeavor. Now, this is not just important inside of a customer-client relationship. If you look at this from the lending sphere, This is exactly the way that a lot of office dynamics in a mortgage company work. A lot of our processors are feelers, right? They work a little different. I've got to understand not only how do I communicate, but how do I do things in a manner that when I present them with the documents or the files that I need, I'm doing so in a manner that allows them to thrive. Because the better they do their job, the better the end result it is for me and my client. The same way with underwriters. They're analytical, thinking of how they're looking at things. Okay, well, now that I understand how they break it down, the questions they're asking, looking at the findings from past experiences, I can see, okay, this is how this person thinks. Well, now I take that approach to looking at the documents that I have in front of me, and I do some of that work up front. Now I'm actually, it's almost like a game, right? I'm trying to outsmart the underwriter by thinking like the underwriter, answering the questions before they have a chance to ask them, makes their job easier. We have a better relationship, and I'm only expediting the ability for my file to get to clear to close. Okay. The same way as with sales, right? Understanding who's your entertainers, who's your controllers, how you communicate with them, whether that be management or other people, those skills will allow you to accomplish more, right? Because at the end of the day, communication is the key. If the left hand and the right hand aren't on the same page, things are not going to work together properly. So you have to practice this. So I encourage you. This is something that you will not be able to master in a week. It took me a long time. It took me even longer to be able to communicate this and teach it to other people. So the first thing is really do identify who you are. Find someone in your family or someone that you work with that might be a little different. Practice these things. Work on changing your pace, changing your inflection. Go back and look at situations where you may not have made a connection with someone that you wish and find out why. Think about what may have happened different. But if you build these skills, if you put a focus on it to every time you're on the phone with someone to try to understand who is this individual, what questions are they asking that allows me identifying who they are, and then practice trying to feed to those needs, some of the things that make those individual personalities tick to make those connections. And you'll start to see that you'll gain more ground. You'll make more connections. More people and more partners will want to work with you because they're going to feel someone that they feel confident in your ability to deliver on what you're saying because they feel confident in your communication skills, right? At the end of the day, that's what this is. It's a communication business, right? We're speaking to someone, we're building comfort, we're building rapport, and we're taking them out there to help them navigate the largest transaction of their life, whether you're a real estate agent. It all talks with someone that feels comfortable in your ability to communicate with them, talk strategy, and be available. From a loan officer, it's explaining all the paperwork, all the details, and where your money's going to get them where they want to be and alleviate some of that stress that once they sign that contract is, oh man, this is real. How do we get to the finish line? So if you practice these things and you work on them, I promise you, they will yield you results both externally and internally out of your office and in your office, as well as in other avenues of your personal life. Hey guys, well, once again, I'm your host, Lando Petrie. Really appreciate you guys joining me today. Want you to have a great one. See you guys next time.